Hello, Cherries fans. Welcome back to another Cherries Red Army video, and we have a match preview today with, you guessed it, it's Forest, it's Wolfie from Forest Fan TV. Welcome back to the channel. How are you doing, mate?
I'm tired, mate. This transfer window has killed me. It really has, man. It's like I was expecting. I don't know if I was expecting a entourage to come through the door again. I know I shouldn't, but it's fun when it does. And you're like, do you know what I mean? It's like, I know we don't need 1,000 more players, yeah, but it's a transfer window. You want some players to come in. So yeah, it was weird only having 3. But it's done and it's closed, and maybe us content creators can get a bit of sleep this week, mate. That would be good.
Yeah,
I'm good, mate.
Certainly the Forest ones, definitely. That is a weirdly quiet window for you, though. Really, about 3 players in. Rayner, which is a very nice signing. We'll see how he does, because I think he's not exactly played much over the last couple of seasons, but that should be an interesting wild card. You've brought in another keeper. And what was your third signing again?
Rodrigo Ribeiro, the Portuguese kid, wonder kid apparently, wonder kid. Right. Yeah. Okay. So he's come in. Before he signed on loan with us, he signed a new contract with Sporting. They slapped on a 69 million release fee clause on him. But we have an option which is meant to be some weird obligation to buy him if Forest stay up, for about, I think it's 10 or 15 million. So I don't know where he fits in, buddy. Should we talk about the transfer window? Should we start with the?
Yeah, let's keep going with that. Where does he play? If you say he doesn't fit in, what's his position?
Well, I mean, he's a striker, but he's like 18 years old. Right. He's played, I think, 4 games for the Sporting senior team. Most of him has been in the B squad or in the Portuguese under whatever year he's in. But what I'm saying is, I don't get how it fits in, because obviously Taiwo's back now, finally. You got Chris Wood. There's rumors that Chris Wood has got an injury, and that's why there was a bit of panic, because we went after Akpon, lastminute.com, the old Forest Flame. He played like 7 matches. Yeah, he played 7 matches for us. Most Forest fans were like, the name rings the bell. I don't know why, but it rings the bell. Oh yeah, him. Yeah. So we had him. And then do you remember Rafael Fair as well? He was another old Flame. He's at Sevilla now.
I'm thinking of a different Fair, maybe, who was an attacking mid rather than a striker.
He was crap anyway. But he's been decent at Sevilla now. So it's like, once Akpom fell through, suddenly it's like, let's go back through the old list. Who else did we have on loan? From it wasn't that far back. We had him, I think, in the COVID season. But yeah, so there was a bit of that going on. So Forest were trying to do a Forest late in the transfer window. But then this keeper, man, we got more keepers now than we have strikers, John.
Yep.
It's like,
it's a shame Voros and Diaz had already gone to Sheffield United, because I'm sure he would have been on the list.
He was last season. He was last season. Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't have taken him back last year, but he started all right for those blunts, hasn't he? So I don't know. I think he'll fade away. But yeah, so this new keeper, I'm not convinced about him, is what I'd say. I had a rant the other week saying, give me anyone, put Jon between the sticks for us right now. That would be an upgrade on Turner. So it looks like Forest took me literally, and they just brought a keeper in, because we went through about 5, maybe 7 keepers who rejected us before we got to him. We tried to get Sam Johnston from Palace. Gaya, it was the other. I've forgotten. There was so many of that were just rejected. The Liverpool backup, what's his name? Kelleher, whatever his name is.
Yeah. I think you went for Belgium into the Castells as well.
Probably.
I remember hearing. But yeah, and the funny thing is, I'm fairly certain you're probably going to bring in another keeper in the summer, aren't you? Isn't there like a main target that you've been after for a season and a half or something?
I don't know anymore, bro. They've signed this guy up on a 3-year deal. Now he's all right. He's definitely an upgrade on Turner. Yeah. But is he the solution at 31? His stats, if you look at stats, I know you're a stat man, John, he's the worst ranked keeper in the French league this season. He hasn't made a error that's led to a goal in 6 years. And all the Forest fans are like, oh my God, this is perfect, because Turner makes at least 3 a match. And I'm there thinking, negative Nelly me, What would you do if you hadn't made a mistake for 6 years and you turn up for Forest on your first match? Obviously, you're going to break that streak. That would be the most Forest thing ever to do. So, yeah.
Well, I suppose it's about how well he can play out from the back, isn't it? Because that's the mistakes that Turner's been making against with his kicking, isn't it? Admittedly, some of his saves have been diabolical as well, but his kicking keeps messing things up.
His kicking is shocking, man. Yeah. He's playing NFL, kicking the ball out, trying to stop the clock or something. He's been atrocious.
And I thought Vlachodimos was meant to be the thing coming in and doing a decent job coming in from Benfica, but he's just not really done it, has he? Or just not been favoured?
The thing of Akademus, I still would have played him ahead of Turner because the meme going around is that he's done nothing. He hasn't made a mistake, but he hasn't made a save. That's kind of how you'd summarize him. And he's glued to his goal line. He doesn't come out for crosses. It's like, he thinks rush goalkeeper is, he can't do that. He has to stay on his line. But he hasn't made a mistake. And I still think he's a decent keeper. And I do worry. And, all the Forests lot that watch our channel are like, stop writing him off before he's had a chance. I'm like, I'm not writing him off, but the whole point of me doing a video is to give you my opinion on what I think, on him. I'm not writing him off. Hopefully he plays against Bournemouth, because God help us if Matt Turner does. As soon as he's there, put the gloves on, I'm fully behind him, man. I'm Sells' biggest fan. But I do worry, mate. I do worry. It's still, as you said, come the summer, are we going to be in the same situation, trying to weigh up our sixth goalkeeper? It's just a nightmare, mate. It's a nightmare. But you had a quiet window. You had one player in, was it?
Yeah, basically one player in on a loan with a option / obligation to buy, and we also got a youngster in as well, like for a few $100,000 from Scotland. But he'll go into the youth side, and we just recalled a couple of players. But most of our dealings were outgoings. A lot of players going out on loan, with one permanent. But just before we move on to sort of how your season's gone since we last played, the one outgoing that struck me as odd from you was Mangala going out. Is he just not getting any game time, and just the new manager is like, nah, I can do without him? Because I thought he was a decent player.
He's been our best midfielder this year, like consistency wise. When Nuno came in, he wasn't starting him for the first few games. I think against you, I think he did come on in the second half, if I remember rightly. We'll talk about what happened to Bolly. But after that, he got, dropped for a couple of games, and then he came back in and around, I think when we started playing Blackpool in the Cup, roughly. But yeah, it split the fan base, because the fans are in agreement. He's a good player, solid player for us. It feels to me like Forest needed to raise some funds,
right?
Because initially Napoli and Juventus were in for him, but they wanted a loan with an option to buy, and Forest were refusing that because they needed the cash. So in the end, he's gone to Lyon, who are in a relegation fight in the French league. They've paid about $8.5 million up front, and it's an option on top of that. But the feeling is it's a very, like, what's the word to say? It's going to be an obligation, but it's been, wrapped as an option, because he put a message out on his socials yesterday that was basically a goodbye. And the talk is that's going to be another 20 mil. So in all, we're going to get 30 mil for him, having paid, I think, 11 mil to take him on. So it's good profit.
Yeah.
But we're tight on the old PSR FFP BS, mate. So
yeah, that is going to be an interesting one, considering I'm sure you'll find out what the judgment will be.
Corruption.
By April is the latest that you should be finding out. So yeah, I'm sure we'll be talking about that on Beat the Draw when it comes up. But we'll ignore that for now, because that's in the future, and we'll look at sort of how Forest are doing now. Obviously, when we last played, that was that Nuno's first or second game?
Yeah,
his first match. Obviously got hit with an awful decision. I don't think any Bournemouth fan would agree that it was a second yellow for Bolly when he got that red card, which obviously completely changed the game. And Bournemouth would have been happy with a point based on the performance, but managed to nick a win. Since then, how have things been under Nuno? I mean, it's not been a lot of games, to be fair, since then. You've played, let's see, since that game you went to Newcastle and won, and and then you beat Man United at home. Then you had the 2 games against Blackpool, and since then there's only been 3 other games. Lost to Brentford, drew with Bristol City in the cup, and lost to Arsenal. So even your losses have been close. How have you found it under Nuno?
His football style is way better, night and day to Cooper before it. Even in the game we played against you, like if that had still been Cooper in charge, when we went a man down, you would have seen him try and very what's the word I'm looking
completely
for?
shut up shop.
Shut up shop. That's the one.
Yeah.
Whereas Nuno made some attacking subs at halftime, and I was like, okay, this is interesting.
Paid off straight away as well.
Paid off. We took the lead, and then obviously our defense is leakier than a sieve. So his philosophy is, it isn't like gun ho, but it's not low block. It's kind of counter-attacking football, I'd say. A bit of a balance to it, but with an element of you can tell he's clearly been told by Marinakis, I'm looking for a manager who's going to progress forward, a bit more attack. Saw that against Newcastle. We were brilliant against Newcastle. Against Manchester United, I don't know if it was they were really rubbish or we were in development, but they looked terrible. Matt Turner obviously gave him an assist for Rashford's goal on that one with a lovely pass out. And then against Brentford, it was the whole Ivan Toney cheating show, wasn't it? With the old foam being moved and what have you. That's a whole debate in itself. But taking that aside, again, Matt Turner couldn't line his wall up. He had Callum Hudson-Odoi, don't know what he was doing, just admiring the wall from a side-on view. But the football in general, Forest are scoring more goals, but we are still leaky at the back. Yet most Forest fans would say that our centre-backs are pretty good. Omar Bamadeli's broken into the team with our AFCON players out.
Yeah, I saw him finally in the starting lineup.
Yeah, he's been really good. Murillo's been decent. Where we've had problems, mate, is with aerial crosses. That's where we're struggling with. Struggled against you, struggled against a few of the other teams have played since then. So Niakate is now back from AFCON. He's not been great in the air, but he's a good kind of leader to have at the back. I think he'll replace Omar Bamadeli in the back 4. But overall, I'm like still awaiting all the return of the AFCON players because we had 6 going out. There's 2 key ones left. We need Sangare back and Ola Aina, our fullback, and then we can start to judge. But this is going to be the first game for a while that we've had a team that we can put together that resembles close to a starting 11 that you'd think Nuno would want to pick. But again, he's going to be bringing in some players who haven't played before. New keeper, Reina coming in. So maybe it's going to need bedding in time, but I don't think it will. I think this game is going to be quite interesting on Sunday.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I expect it to be high scoring, but we'll come on to predictions in a bit. In terms of players, when we spoke before, I remember when we previewed the last game and you were asking me about what players I think stood out to Forest, and I couldn't really pick more than maybe 1 or 2. And I think, Starboy Morgan Gibbs-White hadn't really been doing it. Has he started showing up a little bit more, or is there any other players? Because I know Elanga was really, I really wanted to put Elanga in my fantasy team, but he got injured. But he started obviously getting some assists and combining well with Chris Wood. But Chris Wood is Chris Wood. So the good news is you've got a Awoniyi back at this point. He's already scored. What players are starting to shine under Nuno?
Morgan Gibbs-White. And it's a simple change. He took it out. How many times were we talking about it? We could see it between us guys, talking to you, talking to the other boys. Morgan Gibbs-White is not a winger. He put him straight into the number 10, and suddenly he turns back into the player that he is. So for me, he's been the biggest turnaround in form was from Morgan Gibbs-White. And then he got injured. So he's been out for 2 weeks. He came back for the Bristol City game. And then he played against the Arsenal game. Still didn't look match sharp for me against Arsenal, but we were under the cosh with them. So he's been really good. In terms of the rest, Murillo, I think, is still just brilliant. He's still going to be one of our star boys. And then Elanga, as you said, he's been out injured since we last spoke. He's come back as well. and he suits Nuno's style. He was one of the reasons we beat Newcastle because he created the width, created the pace, and that's how Nuno likes to play, likes to stretch out wide the pitch. So I think they will both start. And Taiwo, Nuno basically hasn't had him ever since he's been in. Taiwo's been injured, and he came back. He had to put him on early against Arsenal. So I still, because the rumors are Wood is injured, as I said earlier. So I think Taiwo will start. And, you know, we were speaking to the Arsenal fans after the game, and they're like, they've never seen Saliba bullied the way that Taiwo got into him. And Taiwo did not look sharp in that game. His touches were still a little off and what have you, and still managed to score the goal. In real time, the goal looked amazing. Like, whoa, did he just Cruyff turn him and then put it in? When you look at it, there was a bit of shinning going on and his body. But that's Taiwo, man. That's what I love about him. So, yeah, so for me, mate, Morgan Gibbs-White, the revelation since Nuno's come in, and everything's now back to being built around him, which is how it should be.
Cool. Well, I suppose that brings us to the game itself. Don't want to keep you too much longer, but how do you see it going, and what's your prediction?
Well, there's some key factors for me in this game. Firstly, is Rob Jones going to be there? That's factor number one. Have you paid him any more brown envelopes to get another centre-back sent off? We'll have to see on that one. Yeah, but I mean, how many brown envelopes have you used, man? Seriously, every time we play Bournemouth, there's some kind of BS that happens. But that's one factor. The other factor is I've checked the weather. I tweeted you it earlier. It's going to be, you know, hurricane winds at 18 miles per hour. So I worry if the game's going to go ahead anyway. I've got to get the roof joke, and it wouldn't be a preview if I didn't.
I know.
Yeah, so that worries me. But the third thing is, I'm starting to thaw out, not warm, but thaw out towards Bournemouth. I like your manager, man. I told you in the summer, I think he's a good manager, and I like the signings he made. And I'm kind of, shall I admit to this? I'm kind of looking at your team now and thinking this is more of a Premier League team than it looked last year under Parker and under the PE teacher. So I'm starting to gain a little bit of respect for Bournemouth. They're not so boring mouth for me now. No. And I'm liking the football you're playing. But I still want to beat you guys because we've got to break this voodoo. It's been, since 2015 or something stupid like that since we last beat you? It's getting annoying now.
Yeah, I can understand that.
It's getting annoying. And it's like, it's been 3-2 so on the last two at the City ground, 3-2. What did we do last year? We drew at your place, didn't we? Sam Surridge late on, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, 1-1.
1-1, yeah. So I would take a point, but I feel Forest need 3. And we got Newcastle next and West Ham and then like Villa and Arsenal. So we have to be targeting this game. So I do think Forest will approach us in a positive mentality, which is why I think the game's going to be quite open. And I think, like, head says draw, but my heart says this could be another 3-2 and hopefully goes our way. If it's a 3-2 to you, then beat the drops. Finish, man. We're never doing beat the drops. I can't do another Bournemouth 3-2, man. I can't do it.
I put in my little predictor league that I do that'll be a 3-2 to Bournemouth because I think I could see it being that high scoring game. I think it'll be a high scorer, but it should be. I think it'll be a very fun game. Should be really interesting.
Yeah, I think both teams are going to look at this thinking we have a chance at winning it. There's going to be no like real thoughts of let's defend first. It'll be let's try and get the lead first from both teams. Now we've said all this, John, you know it's going to be 0-0.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be 0-0 or 1-0 without a doubt. I'm sure it will. But yeah, I certainly see Bournemouth being the ones that sort of like have the initiative to try and play, and Nottingham Forest being very dangerous on the counter, particularly with a 1 year back, especially if Alanga's fit and Morgan Gibbs-White has got more game time into his legs. It's going to be I could see this becoming a bit of a tennis match at some point, but it should be a very interesting game.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun. Please break the curse, man. You're turning into a bogey team, man. I'm done with this bogey crap.
Absolutely. But hopefully it will be good fun, and looking forward to the game regardless. But thanks for joining me, Wolfie. You'll be able to catch me on the preview over on the Forest Fan TV channel, which will probably be already out by the time that this is put forward on Cherries Red Army. But thanks again, Wolfie, for joining us. And after this game, best of luck for the rest of the season.
You don't mean that, man. You don't mean that.
Yes, I do.
Cheers, mate. Always good to catch up with you.
Cheers. Thanks very much. And please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content and want to stick around and find more opinions on Bournemouth. But until the next video, have a great rest of your day. And up the cherries.